Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Real Deal, where I tell you what's really going on in the world and the real deal. And I give you 100%, 110%. Let's go high because my accuracy is beyond high. Because I tell it like it is. And you won't get that from the mainstream media. Because I'm not owned and operated by any big conglomerate telling me what to do. By the way, anyone wants to sponsor me? I'm cool with that. Get a hold of me, man. But I'm still going to think for myself and tell the truth. So I'm nobody's puppet. So today I want to talk to you all about the hypocrisy that's going on in the United States, especially with the immigration laws. You have so many people freaking out over immigration and Trump deporting people. And the president said he was going to do this. He's done it before. And all these people that, let's just say on the far left, the progressives who care about others, but they really don't. But they claim to care about others. They're upset about this. But let me present to you a few facts about their hypocrisy. Because President Donald Trump is way, way behind in the deportation rates. Way behind. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, and this is easily researched through the United States federal government because they keep statistics on everything like this. But everybody's hero, Barack Hussein Obama, he leads with all deportations. He actually has more deportations in 8 years than many presidents combined. And that's talking Trump, Bush, and even Biden. Throw Biden in there too. And you can say, well, he was in there for 8 years. Okay. Trump was in there for 4. Biden was in there for 4. Did you know Biden deported, and this is under Article 42 also, and he also had the most people come back illegally. Biden deported over 4 million people. And most of those guys came back successfully. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to clean stuff up. And before you start going off on this, we'll get to some good points in a little bit when you start talking about how everybody came here from another country, which isn't true. But we'll get there in a minute. But Barack Obama deported 438,421 people in 2013. That's a record. And in all the years, he deported millions in his 8 years. As a matter of fact, he had the nickname, and I remember this. They called him the Deporter-in-Chief. And the Democrats stood up for him and was like, what a great guy. He's helping us out. He's getting rid of these illegal people that don't contribute to our society. And then I remember before him when George W. Bush was doing it, and he barely dipped in it that well. I can't remember the stats, but maybe like 1.2 million people. Shoot, Obama had more than that in a couple years, man. But people were all going after him. So where's your hypocrisy, people? Why do you do this? Why do you go off about other people doing things when your guy did it? You know? I mean, is it okay when your people do something wrong? Apparently it is. Just like when I lived in California, I lived there many years. I lived in the barrio. I lived in, most of you know what that is. But to me, to you you don't speak Spanish, okay? That's like the Mexican ghetto. And I lived there because it was affordable. And it was cheap for me. And even then it was outrageously priced. I was one of the few white people there. And nobody ever gave me a hard time. I knew everybody. They gave me nicknames. I was cool. They were cool. Cops hassled me a lot because it was a drug neighborhood. Because that's in the barrios where, they sold their coca and chiva. Chiva's that's slang for their heroin. Coca, is cocaine. And whenever you saw a white guy down there or a black guy, basically they were down there buying drugs. So the police would hassle you. I got hassled all the time. I always had to carry my ID on me. They would flip out too when I told them I lived there. They'd like, why? I'm like, because it's affordable. Well, don't they hassle you? Nah, they don't hassle me, man. I'm a good person. They're a good person. I would be walking to the store, and I'd see an unidentified van pull up, and it would be the INS. Now, back then, it was the Immigration and Naturalization Services. That's what it was called, INS. And you'd see guys jump out of a van, and you'd hear, El Negro, and people be running. But a lot of people would stand there, a lot of Mexicans would stand there, and they're looking, and they'd shake their head with disgust. And they would start talking afterwards like, hey, I came here legally, so can they. There's no reason. And it is hard. I will say it's hard to be a legal citizen in the United States. There's a lot of hoops to jump through, but it can be done. And you can have the work visa, and you can do all kinds of stuff. And these guys did, and they weren't scared. INS knew that. Back then, there was an area not far from us in Scotts Valley, and there was no Home Depot or anything like that. It was Kmart. This is how long ago that was. Kmart's gone now. But all the Mexican dudes would stand out there trying to get jobs. And every now and then, because I'd be in that area working, and I'd see INS pull up, and the guys weren't scared because they were there legally. They had their paperwork and stuff. And after a while, you didn't see INS pull up anymore. They'd kind of drive by to see if anybody flinched, and they didn't. Because they knew they weren't going to get in trouble because they were there legally. And yes, it is hard, but it can be done. So now everybody's going after Trump. And, here's the deal, too. I'd see some of these guys fighting INS. They'd get their asses kicked. They'd get beat. Nobody said a word. Bill Clinton was president back then when all this was happening. He deported a lot of people, too, but that's okay. And why do people stick up for Bill Clinton? Guy was not that good of a president. He just got in at a good time when the internet boom was going, and then it crashed. But the guy was a freaking rapist. He cheated on his wife more than JFK did with his wife. November 22nd, tune in. We're going to talk about JFK, man. You're going to love it because I know the truth. But anyway, man, you got all these people talking, Trump's doing this, Trump's doing that. We get it. You don't like the guy, okay? I'm not the biggest fan of him either. But I'm not going to bash a guy for doing what he said he's doing. And most people are liking this. And then you have these people say, well, they're just doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do. No, it's not that they don't want to do them. It's that they won't do them for free. They won't do them for cheap. And that's sad. And I understand the Mexicans trying to come here and better themselves. When you see the farms out west, those guys, INS could pull in there, or ICE now, those guys aren't running because they're there legally. And they're doing way better here than they would in Mexico. A lot of y'all don't know, man, but in Trump's first term, he passed the law to where every company in America that was down there, any auto company, anything like that, you had to pay a minimum wage of $16 an hour to the Mexicans. Now, I don't know if you know much about the Mexican economy, but their median wage right now, the median wage for a month is $800. That's $5 a freaking hour on a 40-hour work week. Their minimum wage is $13.72 a day. Yeah, all right. That's not even $2 an hour. I mean, that's ridiculous, man. The median wage, $800 a month. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Mexico's hurting. Mexico's hurting bad. It is a very poor country. I understand people wanting to get out of there and come here. The American dream, it might not be much for most Americans that live here, but for them, working for next to nothing is better than nothing. And they're happy with that. And bless them for that. But there are ways to go about it doing legally. Now, the average house right now, the average house in Mexico, believe it or not, is $93,000. Now, that's just ridiculous. A nice house, the nice average houses are going for $172,000. The average rent for an apartment average is $600. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of really low down, horrible ones, and I'm sure there's some really nice ones. How many of y'all ever been to Mexico? And I'm talking real Mexico. I know a lot of people go to Mexico, but you're at those private resorts that are owned by big corporations, and usually American or foreign corporations. And what do they tell you there? Don't leave. Don't leave the resort area because it's not right. I've been to Real Mexico. I've been down there. And I mean, you see the stereotypes, the little girls on the street corner selling chiclets and selling water, whatever they can get. And it's so sad. And they always have the rumor, put your money in your, put your money in your front pocket or put your money in your shoes. Yeah, because there's a lot of that really goes down there, and it's sad. And most of the people, a lot of the older guys are trying to sell drugs or whatever they can to you. I get it. They're hurting bad. And now a few years back, Trump made it to where all those companies in America, if you owned an American company, had to go down there, you had to pay. Trump passed this rule in his first term. You paid $16 an hour. Yeah, those people were living like kings on that. So let's say Ford Motor has a plant in Mexico. You had to pay those guys $16 an hour. That's a king's wages down there. You could probably make $1,000 a month and live really good down in Mexico. And honestly, that's not much money here in the United States. Y'all know that, right? But then you got these people that, like I said, they go to the resorts and all this. They don't see the real poverty levels down there. They might see it on TV or in the news or something like that. But they talk a good game. They talk about, we should help them out. Well, do it then. Do something. You got too many hypocrites out there that don't practice what they preach. They sit there and talk about the poverty level. They talk about the poverty. What are you doing to help? You're not doing anything. And they sit there and talk about we should let refugees in. Okay, cool. Let them into your house. Well, no, not in my house. These are the same people that back in the 60s when they started integrating the schools, they were all for it. It's like, yes, you can bring the blacks into our schools, but not too many now. And they'd say, well, we're going to send your white kids to black schools. Oh, no, you're not. Over my dead body. Isn't that weird how that works? We have too much hypocrisy, not just in this country, but in the world. And it's disgusting. And like I said, you got the hypocrites out there dogging Trump out for the immigration and ICE. And ICE is doing this, ICE is doing that. Well, people are attacking them. They have the right to defend themselves, just like a police officer. If someone attacks a police officer, they have the right to defend themselves. If somebody attacks a federal employee in certain services, they have the right to defend themselves. It's the law. So if you're attacking somebody like ICE, they have the right to defend themselves. They're federal employees, man. They're protected. You hit an Army guy, he can hit you back. He has that right. You go after National Guard, same thing, man. So, and if you really want to change the world, step up and actually do something. Just don't talk a good game. A sign's not going to change the world for anybody. Hypocrisy is everywhere, and it needs to stop, people. And it starts at the top. You got all these government officials always running their mouths. They don't care. They don't care. They're part of the problem. They're the reason why there's so much poverty in a lot of these countries. And you got Trump with the taxes and the tariffs. And, you got all these companies here in America don't want to pay a living wage, so they'll send the job to Mexico. And they're only paying them $1 an hour, $2 an hour. They're making billions. If you really gave a damn, you'd step up and help. Stop with your freaking hypocrisy. Peace.